now tuning in to a Lightroom podcast.
What's going on, y'all? Y'all know what it is.
It's that time.
It's that time. The Lightroom Podcast.
Y'all already know who I am. Triple OG, RDE. Yeah, that's right. I told y'all I was going to take that name.
Y'all know Swag Pack Shack and his Naive. And today, as y'all already see, we got a special guest.
Yes,
this
sir.
Realtor's dope. You know what I'm saying? Y'all, we gonna tap all his Instagram and social media stuff down below. But, you know, he's here to spit them facts, spit that knowledge with y'all today. So, you know what I'm saying? But before we get started, make sure y'all go ahead and like, comment, subscribe.
For sure.
Hit that bell.
Yes.
And did we say share? Make sure y'all share that thing too.
Hey, but before we go anywhere, before we go any further, my man came with his own cup. His own cup.
see
And this
the
ain't just a sticker on the cup.
Oh, no,
like,
that
it's
ain't
engraved.
That's
Like,
engraved.
this Realtor is dope, like, for real. For real.
Yes.
Appreciate you.
So,
On the metal. So, you know, we brought him in today because, you know, one of the biggest things that grinds my gears.
wait, time out. What?
Grinds my gears.
Like a new person learning how to drive on the clutch?
Exactly.
Ooh.
So, you know what grinds my gears, though?
What?
When you see all these people on social media, they got Hellcats, they got all these expensive ass cars, right?
Right,
They
right.
complain about them getting stolen all the time, right?
Okay.
But the reason being is because they live in an apartment complex.
Now hold on, Swag. Now, do we know they live in the apartment complex?
I mean, from the evidence and the stuff that you see and they post and stuff, it's like clearly they parking these expensive high-end cars outside.
So we talking, you spending $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 a month on a car, right?
Right?
But then you also spending $2,400, $2,500 on rent.
Rent on an apartment.
Couldn't you just rent a house, or couldn't you just buy a house?
I mean, you could just buy a house, and that's why we got Chris here today.
Yes, sir.
Chris gonna spit the facts to y'all on home ownership. You know, it's not as hard as people think. It's not as complicated as people think. That's why we got him here, because we know y'all don't want to be spending all this money on these cars,
Right.
and they get stolen or broken into because you're parking them outside. You know what I'm saying? It's not that hard. So we got Chris. We're gonna have him introduce himself, where he's from, what he's about, and what he do. You know what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
Peace, y'all. Appreciate that. Chris Thom, a.k.a. This Realtor's dope, as they said. Born and raised Brooklyn, New York. Now residing here in Atlanta. You know what I mean? Just trying to bring my talents to Atlanta. You know what I'm saying? No, but I mean, a lot of what I specialize in, which is why it's a great topic, is turning renters into homeowners. They don't, when I say they, I mean renters. Certain renters don't know that they could afford it. They think it's too hard. They think they need this amount of money. Obviously, from the conversation that y'all saying, sometimes money is not even an issue. So now it's just a strategy that people don't understand.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm here to, that's really what I specialize in and what I'm here to talk about.
Okay. So let me ask you, Chris. So like, somebody hit you up and say, "Hey, man, I want a house," you know, and I know for me, it's one of those things where people are afraid to take that leap.
I know
You
I
know,
was before I bought mine. I was scared.
So it's just like, it's like everything in life. Everybody's afraid to take that leap. You know, it's easy to go get an apartment. You know, you go in, they run your credit or whatever, here's the keys, move in date, blah, 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 you good to go. But then when you think of that word home ownership, honestly, first thing that come to mind to me, which is not a bad thing, but the first thing that come to mind to me is, damn, who gonna cut this grass? You know, honestly, if I got to be frank and honest with you.
HOA.
Right. Right. But then you start hearing these terms like, you know, what is it? You got equity in your home. You know, I hear people refinancing homes, and, you know, as you get older in life or whatever the case, your home could then start making you money. And then I have people that are like just killing the game right now, where they have their home, but then they also have 2 or 3 other rental properties that pays for their home. So essentially, you know, so tell us, like, if somebody came to you right now and was like, I want to buy a house, what's the steps in your progress and how that works to help someone say, Chris turned me from a renter to a homeowner?
So me, I'm gonna get all up in your shit.
Right.
I'm gonna be just, you know, frankly put it, you know what I mean? I'm gonna wanna know, all right, what are you doing? Like, what do you do for a living? Because obviously that's important. What do you do for a living? Are you currently renting? You know, car notes, any type of debt, all this good stuff. So I can see what we have to do. So just give you a little example. Say for example, you know, your credit. Your credit is subpar. All right, so we're gonna see why your credit is subpar. So I'm gonna tell you, forget Credit Karma, forget all this, you know, whatever the bank uses. I'm gonna say go to annualcreditreport.com. Get your full credit report. You're gonna get all 3 bureaus, all right? And we're gonna see what's negatively affecting your credit score. So we can, you know, figure out what strategy we're gonna use, right? The next thing is gonna be like, all right, income, what do? You know, how much is that income? Now, people think, oh, I gotta make, you know, $80,000 to afford, you know, a certain amount of mortgage. No, it's really about your debt. If your debt is too high, then obviously that's gonna mess things up on what your affordability would be.
Okay.
Right? So even if you're self-employed, I'm like, all right, how long were you in business? Right? How are you writing your taxes? You haven't filed your taxes yet? Hold on, let's talk about it. Because you mentioned these people spending $1,500 a month on a car payment. Well, guess what? If we're doing it the right way, and you self-employed, you own a business, that $1,500 could be a business expense. So you're not even paying it from your personal side. So now that's not even calculated in your debt to income ratio,
Nice.
which makes you which makes you able to make less money a year and still qualify for that home you want to buy. So it's just all about, you know, the strategy. So I just really just try to get all up in your shit, try to find out exactly what it is, where you're at, and see where we have to go from there.
Got you.
And I could go on and on.
Well, nah, I
But
mean,
that's the
that's what it's here for. So the next thing I would say is, okay, say somebody come to you and say, okay, well, you know, a big fear of mine, because I'm also in the market to buy a house, right? So, you know, we watch the HGTVs, the Property Brothers and things of that nature. And my biggest fear is, you know, going to a house and kind of like, I say they get set up, you know, they show you this lavish, lovely, gorgeous house that fits exactly what you want. I'm talking to the T, to where you be like, this is it. This is my dream home. I want to buy it. But it's like $1.4 million. You be like, I told you my budget, and why would you do that to me? So it's one of those things. Is there a thing to, because like obviously people do it all the time. Is there a thing where you can go out and buy too much house? And as a realtor, is it your job to say, hey, I know you want that, but you can't afford that? Or do you say, hey, let me just get that check. I got you in the house. Man, how long you stay in that house, that's up to you. You know, so, because you, like car salesmen, I know for a fact, they don't care. Once you sign and gone, that's it. You know, they can care less if you wreck it. They can care if it gets stolen. They don't care. I feel like with a house, I hope it's a little different, because, you know, we talking 30-year mortgage, 15-year mortgage for some people.
So one, I always say I'm gonna get the check regardless. So that's not even in my mind. My thing is to make sure I set you up. And can you have too much of a house? Yes. What you could afford and what you're able to purchase are kind of two different things. And what I mean by that, you know, when I connect you with a lender, the lender's gonna say, oh, he makes this amount of money, got this much in the bank, his debt is this, he could afford $1 million. But if $1 million come with a $5,000 a month mortgage, you want to pay that? No.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you say you want to pay $2,500, you're more comfortable with that. Well, that's where we're gonna, you know, make sure we stay within that budget. Now, granted, am I gonna be one that's gonna show you a little bit higher above your budget? Yeah, because sometimes people come to me and like, oh, I want to stay within this, but they penny pinching on $20,000, $30,000 when I only make a difference of $20 a month.
Right, and that's what I was gonna say. Same thing with cars. Like people come in and, you know, they, I can afford, you know, a $700 a month car note, no problem. But then when I gotta pay $400 every 3 months for an oil change,
Yeah.
it kind of makes that car
And,
unaffordable.
and that's what I tell people all the time. Like, I can go and buy the car, but I can't afford to own the car because, like,
That's real.
yeah, because a lot of people they go and buy these Lambos and stuff like that. Like, oh yeah, I got the money, I'm gonna buy it. But then when it comes to that first something that breaks down or the first oil change, you're like, damn, $1,500, like every 3 months.
See, that'll never happen on the home side. Like
No.
with me, because like I said, I'm all up in your stuff more than, you know, the average realtor, I would say. I want to know everything, and I'm gonna give you all these scenarios to be like, listen, like I said, you could afford this, but you got to think about, you know, like you mentioned, cutting the grass if you don't have an HOA. You got to think about your utilities. You got to think about all these things. So I'm gonna bring that into consideration for you to help you make that decision. Now, if you say, you know what, I still can, All I could do is give you the information. You're going to make the decision.
Right. Decision's yours.
You know what I mean? But I'm also thinking the long game, because at the end of the day, going back to renters and homeowners, I want to help you acquire assets, right? Help your net worth. Like, my goal is to at least get everyone that works with me up to $1 million in assets. And how you do that? Excuse me. You buy that property. Make sure you buy that property that's going to have a decent resale value. If you're buying a property to fix it up, make sure the after repair value, is decent to where you have enough equity. Now, there's so many different opportunities where we can say, hey, you know what? I want to still live here, but I want to buy another property. So, you know what? Keep that money in the bank. Let's take this money out this house, buy the cash out refinance, like you mentioned, or home equity line of credit. We take that money out the house. Now we have a down payment for the next property. Now we just used, whether it's $20,000, $30,000 of equity from one home to acquire another $300,000 asset.
Y'all heard that? Y'all make sure y'all listen to what he's saying. Y'all heard he said take the equity out of your current house and use that to go buy another house. And with this market and how they paying people for these houses these days, that's an ingenious plan. And that way you still got money rolling in.
100%.
So
But then, I'm glad you brought that point up. So then, as you just said, which I was going to touch on next. So with the market being as crazy as it is right now, everybody keeps saying the same thing. It's going to pop. It's going to boom. And if we all go back to 2000, what was that, 2009, where you saw foreclosures left and right, up and down. So let's say if I'm someone that's in a house right now and I got the $20,000, $30,000, would now be a good time to buy another property, or should I sit back and wait?
Waiting, you don't know what you're waiting for.
This is
right?
true.
Now, I'm just going to say I wasn't in the business back in 08, but I could guarantee you that, and I know just based on, my knowledge of it, the way that mortgages were given out back in 2008 are not the way they're given out now.
Okay.
They're more stringent now. Back in 08, you could sit there and say, hey, write down that I make $120,000, and you got a letter that you could write it up on Microsoft Word, and that gets you the house. You can't afford to pay it. You know what I'm saying? You don't make that money, but that's getting you the house. Right now, they want to see everything but your blood type. They want to see your credit, your income, your debt, your child support. I mean, you name it, they're going through it. These underwriters are going through it. So
I heard they even ask for your logins and stuff for like your bank accounts and all that stuff.
Oh yeah. Tax transcripts. I mean, you name it. You name it.
When they say, because I can only based off what I've heard and seen and things of that nature. But my mom was telling me, like, when she was going through her process of getting a house, she didn't spend nothing. Like she literally had her direct deposit, like 3/4 of it go to the account, but then that quarter would be a paper check, and she would just cash that check just so she can have money. So it would still show income, right? But she was so afraid to touch anything in her account, anything. No credit cards. She would use the bare minimum.
Yeah, they tell you that.
She spent $25 at the gas station to fill up. Then, she would put $25 back on that card to make sure that card had a zero balance. So those are the things that she's telling me, go ahead and kind of prepare. But again, this was back in the day. I don't even remember when she bought the house. But is that same concept still true to today? Like,
now, this is when you're trying to make sure I understand you correct. This is when you're trying to buy, or this is when you're just trying to save?
When you're trying to buy.
So, what you use your money on is your business, right? I would say, like, if you trying to buy a house and you're under contract on the house, you want to limit the amount of spending that you do, period. Opening credit lines, whatever the case may be, you want to eliminate that or keep it very low, because they're going to say, hey, where's this money going? Now, if you're trying to save to buy a house, you still have to live.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You know what I mean? You still got to live, but you putting money away, that's perfectly fine, because you're going to have things like moving expenses. You're going to have things like closing costs. Now, all these things, closing costs, let me touch on closing costs and down payment. There's opportunities where you can get down payment assistance. But guess what? Ain't nobody with bad credit gonna be able to get down payment assistance, which is why it comes back to credit and keeping your credit, where it needs to be.
Yeah.
But you can move into a house and probably have little to no money out of pocket expense. Now, the market is more hectic, so it takes a lot of strategies to even try to do that. So I always tell people, you still want to make sure you have enough savings, have a plan, so that way, should something come up, should shit hit the fan, you're good. You know what I mean? But it's definitely not a bad thing, what your mother was doing and what she was teaching you, but there's other ways to get around it.
All right. I know for me, when I bought my house, I have the VA loan, and I put down the money to, I guess, reserve my plot or my piece.
Deposit.
Yeah, and then once it came down to closing, I ended up getting all that money back, and I have no closing costs because of the VA and everything. So I guess it would just depend on the person's situation.
Different
Correct.
strategies.
I mean, there's situations where I'm negotiating, closing costs to be paid by the seller. And if it's a builder, there's certain incentives that will help cover the closing costs. There's so many different things. This is why I always just try to get in front of people, hear what they have to say about home ownership and hear their thoughts about it, and then just give them my 2 cents. At the end of the day, I ain't gonna change your mind if you ain't really ready. But all I could do is give you the information and give you the facts behind it. And everybody wants to make money.
Yeah.
Everybody's in business want to level up, want to leave something for their kids. So this is one of the easiest ways outside of stocks and all these other investments that you can sit there and set yourself up and your family up for life.
Yeah.
You always got to pay for where you rest your head at. Like, why not own where you rest your head at?
And that's the way I look at it, because there's so many rules and regulations. Because like right now I'm in an apartment complex, and it's cool, it's a nice complex or whatever, but it's not my home. If I decide I want to cut that wall out and do major renovations, I can't do that. Or if I decide that, hey, you know what? Let's build a wall here. Let's turn this room into this, that, and the third. I can't do that. If I want to paint the wall, I want to be able to paint the wall and don't have to worry about having to paint it back and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But most importantly, what I can't stand is, don't get me wrong, neighborhoods are set up different from complexes, but I want to be able to have a party, or not even necessarily have a party, but I want to be able to have a gathering, and I don't have to worry about my neighbors beating on the wall.
Oh yeah,
saying,
that shit's the worst.
Yeah, you want to do your thing. You want to have
Yeah.
your freedom.
You want to have your freedom.
You ever had that opportunity where you got to take the broomstick and hit the roof?
Honestly,
I come from New York, so you know damn well I did. So I'm just saying.
I'm gonna be honest with you. So it's a story, funny thing. So before my daughter was born, we lived in an apartment complex. Loved the apartment, right? But there was one problem. My neighbors downstairs would smoke weed all the time.
Oh, so that shit was just seeping through the
No,
walls.
it was coming through to the point that when we washed our clothes, it smelled like we smoked weed.
Wow.
So
he was high on the low.
Yeah, right. No, I was high. You come to my house, you was gonna get high regardless. So my wife she was pregnant, and so she was like, babe, I can't deal with this no more. So we talked to the complex. Of course, they said they can't do anything about it. So one night, my wife was like, I'm fed up with it. Pregnancy hormones got to it. She was like, I'm gonna call the cops. I said, all right, do you? The cops came, and it was like, what's the problem? And his partner was like, I smell the problem. Where is it? Y'all got something in here? And I was like, no, that's the problem. That's why we're calling y'all here. And so it's just things like that to where nowadays I feel like people don't really take the apartment lifestyle as they used to back in the day. Like people used to be courteous. Now it's like, don't come through the neighborhood. Like in your neighborhood, you don't have that 17-year-old kid with the fart can on his Honda Civic driving through, revving the motor,
Yeah.
at 9:30, 10 o'clock at night. It's respectful. In a complex, it's like it's 24 hours. You just never know what you're gonna get.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing we've had recently, which kind of like was my boiling point, my breaking point, is pulling the fire alarm. Like we back on that now.
People pulling the kids pulling the fire alarm?
We can't say if it's kids or not, but
That's crazy.
I would hope no grown ass man or woman would do something like that.
That
but
shit would be annoying.
It's annoying because it's so loud.
Yeah.
That we can't. It's not one of them things where you're like, all right, it's whatever. No, it's so loud that you have to leave. Like it's ear piercing loud. So we out there. The last time it happened, it was like 2 o'clock in the morning. Everybody's pissed. But then when the fire department finally got there, because they knew it wasn't an alarm, because they didn't get no 911 calls, they just got an alert that it was
it's a prank.
whatever. So they got there, and then they had to go through, mind you, there are 4 levels. They had to go through each level,
And
each
check.
floor to check each
That's
drop
crazy.
point. It was out there for hours, bro. And I'm like, I'm glad it wasn't raining. I'm glad it wasn't cold. But at the same time, I should be asleep.
So you know what this means? Not to cut you off. You know what this means, right? So now we got to hold him accountable.
Yeah.
Because he don't want to be going through this.
Yeah, you
for
don't
so
go through
long.
that.
Nah, so I told
So
you.
let's get you right.
Hey,
Let's get you right.
Hey, we here. That's why you here. That's why you here. That's why I'm asking all the questions, because I need to know. So it's literally one of them things where I feel like I don't want to come half step into the table. I know what I need to do. So we getting the credit right, credits right. Now I'm working on that down payment because I know I'm gonna have something to the table. It might not be as much as I need, but like I said before, I don't want to feel like wasting time because time is money. I'm in the game. Customers come in, they talk a good game, they want to get this done, this done, this done, and then it's time to start talking about that bill. Oh man, well, I just want to get pricing right now, things of that nature. No, we ain't gonna do that. I'm not gonna be that guy to someone else. So when I come to you, I'm like, all right, Chris, listen, boom, I got that on the table. Credits right here. This is here. This is here. This is here. This is everything you need. Where do we go from here? And then at that point, you know exactly. Okay, well, I'm gonna pay you up with this lender. This lender gonna get you this. We're gonna come back. Areas that you want to look at. You want to look in around this area. You could go out here. It might be a little stretch. I don't know, but I know for a fact you'll be comfortable here. That's how I want this transaction to be as smooth and simple as possible.
You know, they got a big ass neighborhood coming up off of Bells Ferry. You know, that neighborhood's gonna be huge. And
There's a few.
is it?
There's a few.
Yeah.
There's one on Bells Ferry. You got 106s. I mean, you have a few.
And then that one that's 192 going towards Ackworth, behind the racetrack.
So I mean, that right there should show people that there's a market for it, and it's not just about being able to, I guess, buy it. It's just being able to make sure your stuff's in line so that you can afford it. But I mean, people's buying houses left and right, no matter what's going on.
Correct.
So,
And just to touch on your point real quick, as we all know, with business owners here, right? So you say you want to come correct. But one thing I would ask yourself and another business owner is like, listen, you think you're coming correct, but maybe you don't even need to come that correct. Let me help you come correct.
This is true.
Right? For example, if you, like I mentioned earlier, if you've been in business for over 5 years, right? We only need 1 year tax return to qualify that income. So you're talking about getting a down payment right, but guess what? What if we're able to make sure that the income, your taxes are done correctly, where you're gonna be able to have that income because you're in a business, you're profitable. So
I'm learning too, y'all. I'm learning
you know
too.
What I mean?
So.
hope y'all learning something too.
So that goes to all the business owners out there that, I mean, if you've been in business for over 5 years, and I know we all want to pay less taxes, let's strategize though, because there's ways we can minimize our tax liability. I don't want to say pay less tax, but minimize our tax liability to help us get into this house. You feel what I'm saying?
Sure.
Like I'm pretty sure you got a car. I'm pretty sure you got decals on the car letting people know, you know, what you do for a living,
sure,
right? That's
for
a
sure.
business expense. I'm pretty sure you probably have a payment on that car too. That's all a business expense. You know what I mean? And there's ways, depending on the type of vehicle. I'm not a tax person by no means, so you got to put that at the bottom. Like, this is not tax advice.
We are not responsible, but don't pull a Wesley Snipes.
But I'm just saying, there's just strategies in place that'll help you be able to, like, you know what? I can buy this car that's for business use, right?
Okay.
Write off 100% of this vehicle underneath the business, but guess what? So you say for example, your business made 200,000, and this vehicle, it's got to be 6,000 pounds. I'm pretty sure you probably heard this on social media, whatever, right? And that vehicle costs 100,000. As business owners, we're good because we pay taxes last. Right. So you make 200,000. That vehicle costs 100,000. Now you're paying taxes on 100,000, if there's no other expenses.
Right.
But guess what? When it comes to the lender, right? They're gonna pull that back in as income. So that $100,000 vehicle, right? Even though you pay tax on 100,000, they're gonna still use 200,000 because if your accountant did it properly, they're depreciating that asset, but the lender could pull it back in as income, right?
Yeah.
Get with your tax person to, get all
He is
the
not a
legalities
tax
of it.
person.
Not a tax person.
Put that out there.
But those are just little strategies that help us business owners be able to buy the house.
I see Rico about to go get his M3.
Now I got to be over 6,000 pounds.
Oh yeah, that's right. So maybe the
get that,
M6. Maybe go get the 8. Go get the M8.
I don't even know what the weight. I was looking at it. I was like, all right, let me see every car over this.
I'm gonna have to go get that Tesla Model
Model X.
X.
You've been
Oh,
saying
there
that
you
for
go.
a minute.
I
There you
have
go.
been saying that for a minute. That's what the wife wants, and she's not gonna be happy until it's done. So.
You got to. You got
Look
to.
at that.
But
But you can't be like some of these people parking the Model X.
No, you not no
That's
damn.
why we ain't got one yet.
Because where you gonna charge it? You ain't gonna be able to charge it in the apartment complex. So you got to get your house. Y'all heard that? You got to get your house. I mean, don't look at it as a negative. Look at it as a positive, because all you're doing is building more income for yourself.
At the end of the day, I mean, that's what it is. Everybody wants that American dream. Apartments was never an American dream. The way I look at it like this: if you go back in time, we go back to the 40s, the 30s. They didn't have apartments.
No.
Everybody had a house.
No, you know what pisses me off about apartments though, that I think about all the time? I'm sitting here paying $2,000 for a 2-bedroom, right? And this $2,000 is going straight to the owner's pocket. So if you have, say you have 150 units in that apartment complex and everybody's paying $2,000 a month, that dude, that owner of that complex, banking.
And then on top of this, it's gonna go up every
year.
Rent don't ever go down. That's one thing.
Nope.
Just let me chime in. Rent don't ever go down. People be like, I'm just gonna pay this rent, like you mentioned, waiting. All right, you still gonna pay that rent, and in a year it's probably gonna go up 5%. And you can't do nothing
and
about
now COVID. A lot of people don't realize, but COVID done changed the whole renters game policy.
Man.
They don't have a 4% markup minimum. Now they can do 8
They can do
and
whatever.
10%. So you could go from paying $1,500 to $2,400.
I'll tell you what, I just listed somebody's, one of my clients who I've helped purchase a home, and I just listed it for rent at about 30 to 40% higher than what the rent was 2 years ago. That's crazy. That's crazy. Now it's great for him. It's great
Right.
for
Yeah,
us.
it's great for him, yeah.
At the end
But
of the day,
then you got people that don't know, that are not watching this podcast, frown on them. I need everybody, your mama, your sister, your cousin, everybody to watch this episode because we're trying to educate.
You need to, because
Educate.
paying all that money for some rent when you could be paying way, way less just on your mortgage,
Why
and
don't
then
you-
you're building assets at the same time.
But my
it don't
thing
make
is,
sense.
why don't you start somewhere to where you can be the person that's the renter
Yeah.
or the rentee? Sorry.
So I get what you're trying to say. So like I said, for those people that say, hey, let's say they're in a good area, they want to, still rent. That's fine. Everybody has their own objective, right? For their own reasoning. But I still say go ahead and go buy that property. Go ahead and buy that property that's going to cash flow you. Even if that property, let's say the mortgage on it is $1,600, and even if you only make $1,800, that's still $200 a month cash flow, right? But guess what? You get the tax advantages that come with owning that property.
Yeah.
Like, it's just so many advantages that I think everybody needs to have that opportunity under their belt, need to have that asset under their belt. And I could go on and on for days, but all I would just say, get with whoever you're working with, primarily me, and let's strategize on how we can get you where you want to be, because you may not be there now, but you got to get your mind right to say, hey, this is what I want to do, so how am I going to be able to get there?
And this is the last thing I'm gonna chime in on. For those who have the bad credit and those who have the repos and the whatever you want to call it, don't frown upon that. You know what I'm saying? Like, don't be embarrassed. Everybody had to start somewhere, and you just wasn't educated. It's okay. But one thing I will say this, because I've helped some people kind of get back on the right track. I'm like Chris, by no stretch, I'm no credit expert or anything along that lines. That's not me. However, from what I've seen, and maybe you can chime in on this, with those who have bad credit, not saying that they have bad credit at all, but those who have bad credit is one of those things where I think it's easier to repair bad credit than to maintain good credit.
That's a myth.
Again, but then I see why you say it's a myth, because those who have great credit have great spending habits.
Yes and no.
Okay.
Because you can have good credit and not make a dollar.
This is true.
You know what I mean? You can have good credit and your income is not even, sufficient, right? But it's about, I feel like your credit is just a reflection of how you keep yourself accountable.
Okay.
Your accountability, right? So say, for example, people, based upon the strategies, there's ways to, increase your available credit by, going to family members and say if you have bad credit, you have a credit card of $20,000 and you got decent credit, paying your bills on time. We're family. You don't even got to give me the card, but you can add me as an authorized user on that card. Now I inherit that credit line, right? I inherit that, and that just boosts my credit up, right? Because it lowers my credit usage and increases my available credit, right? So it's the same. It's easy to repair credit, but you just got to be disciplined, and it's easy to maintain good credit. You just got to be disciplined and hold yourself accountable.
There it is.
It's not hard. I'm telling you, it's not hard. It's not hard to repair credit. Now, there's people out there that would say I could, repay your credit in this amount of time, pay this amount of money up front. Like, I would just say, do your research with people like that, because credit repair is not overnight. But if you're taking the right steps and utilizing the right strategies, you could get your credit repaired in no time.
Yeah, to touch on that, because that was one of the issues I ran into when I bought my house. Because, you know, Scylla was still alive back then, but my credit score was where it needed to be, but it was right where it needed to be. But her credit score was way up there, but I was the one making money. She was a stay-at-home mom. So that was one of the issues we ran into, because then if I added her, it would change the numbers up, and it was just a whole bunch of back and forth. But, you know, like you said, you got to be disciplined. Discipline on getting it right and discipline on keeping it right. So
100%. In that situation, just to touch on what I would have did, she would have had the cards, I would have put myself on her cards, and that would have helped you right there. It doesn't affect her because she's adding you to her cards.
yeah.
Oh, that's strategy, baby.
See, we wasn't educated on any of that stuff.
Now we do.
We giving y'all a little bit of tidbits on what y'all need to do. A little bit of, you know, just
Go find your sugar mama and your sugar daddy. Ask them to be authorized users on their card, so your credit can jump on up there, so you can go call Chris, tell him you got 30 bands on the table, you want that $300,000 house, so you can park your Tesla Model X in the garage.
And
with
not
his
the
own
street.
charging port. So.
And not in the street. But you do know what I kind of miss about apartments, though? The competitions. The cheek clapping competitions. It's like, oh, it's game time. You hear the neighbors upstairs or next door, and you just like, oh, that's what time it is, right? Let's get it. Oh, y'all gonna get loud? Okay.
So he just proves that he was the one with the stick. We call it the hater stick.
There it is.
Dude, that was one of the things I did.
I never thought of that, but the cheek
clapping competitions. You know what I'm saying? So, you know.
Comment.
But y'all hear it here first on Lightroom Podcast. This realtor's dope. He done dropped some keys, some major keys, as DJ Khaled would say, major keys. So, you know what I'm saying? We gonna tag his information below. So if y'all are in the market for houses or anything like that, or maybe just some advice, y'all go ahead and hit him up and get the information that you need.
Oh, they in the market, because I mean, who don't want to have
I think everybody
free? I mean, my goal is to be able to have my rental properties pay for my cars, my house, my child's education. I just sit back and
chill.
my time.
Gotta start somewhere. Even if you don't think you're ready, let's still chop it up. Let's still get you right.
You can't grow being scared. So y'all heard it here.
There
Y'all,
it is.
y'all heard it here
Right
first.
there.
Lightroom Podcast, Swag Pack Shack,
OGRD.
This realtor is dope.
and we out, y'all.
Peace.